Hey guys, Fourfinger here, and I wanted to make an update on two of my favorite builds from 0.2, and from what I've seen in the patch notes, it seems that both of them got buffed quite a bit, and there was nothing that indicates that they won't be working anymore. Now keep in mind there's still a couple of days left before the league starts, so they might make some additional changes, and knowing GGG, they sometimes even do like some bug fixes as a stealth nerf without even putting the patch notes. So to be super safe, once the league starts, just log one of your standard characters and see if it still functions. If it does, great, you can start leveling with no problem. If it doesn't, you should probably have some backup in plan. With that being said, I did have to make some readjustments and had to fix some caveats, but on paper the damage should be way higher on both of them. So with that being said, let me just jump into the burning slash build first, and then we'll do weapon infusion. So before we jump into the actual changes, if you guys are interested in how any of those builds work, feel free to go on my channel and check some of the previous build guides. And keep in mind, in this video I won't be updating any POBs because we are still missing a lot of information regarding the new skill tree and also regarding some of the support gems that we don't have yet. So with that being said, let's just go over the new changes that we have for right now. And first one is a huge quality of life. Whirling slash movement is now able to pathfind slightly, making it less likely to get stuck on small obstacles. This is a huge quality of life because before you used to get stuck on everything, like even small pebbles, rocks, whatever, everything would just, you would have to use WASD to get out of the way. Now this should be decently better, but we'll see how better when the patch actually comes. The second thing that we have is Incinerate, which got reworked. It now requires fuel gained by spending mana to use. It no longer has a mana cost itself. This shouldn't be a big problem because you can just enter the map, use like max level curse a couple of times, you're gonna spend all your mana and then use potion and should be fine. It no longer applies fire exposure, that's fine, we didn't need it for our build anyway. KS speed is now fixed to 0.25, still not a problem. Cone length doesn't matter, we only care about the burning ground. Now this is a good addition to our skill, it's gonna give us like I think 40% damage on top. Instead of doing like 8 stacks which gave you 40%, which gave you 320, it's gonna be 12 stacks with 30, which is going to be 360%, so decent amount of more damage. And it no longer creates burning ground by default, instead a fire infusion can be consumed to cause it to create burning ground. So there's a couple of sources where you can get it, stuff like Living Bomb we've seen in the video. Once it explodes, it can actually give you a fire infusion, which you can then use to make the burning ground. But I think this might require you to actually do some, go into a map, find a mob and kill it. But there's also a elemental equilibrium keystone, which is going to make it so that you can get random infusions, which means you can pretty much go into the map, use some easiest infusion generator skill that can do it on without mobs if there is any, and then you can just, before fighting mobs already have one. We'll see exactly how it works, but thankfully when it comes to the where it is, it's really close to the Gemling starting tree, which is really awesome. So if that becomes viable, I'll definitely make an update on that, so that's good to know. With that being said, the biggest change that I've seen in Incinerate is the flat damage that we get. Like before, high end was 470, now it's going to be 778. That's a big increase overall, and when you combine that with also a little bit more damage, I think it's gonna be in a really good spot. So that's kind of the buff slash adjustments that I had to make. And then we have some of the additional stuff that shouldn't break the build, like I said before. It says clarified the addition to radius per stage for Whirling Slash and Whirling Lance. This should just be in the description. This means no changes for main, it's just clarified in the description, so no changes there. Fixed a bug where strike skills could sometimes have their animations cancelled at unintended times. This is mostly been used for Rake and Whirling Slash when you're just trying to move quickly early on, but for our build this also doesn't matter because we are just spamming Whirling Slash, we don't actually animation cancel, so in that regard we are also completely fine. Effects which don't have the hit but ignite targets as though as they did, such as Incinerate or Ignited Ground, also inflict flammability. But here's that new caveat, you cannot inflict ignite until you have 100% flammability. But because our build does so much damage, and if it does build flammability, that should happen almost instantly, so this shouldn't change anything for us, as long as it works the way that I think it does. This is something that I'll have to test, because I still think that Burning Ground will start building up flammability because that's what it says, but we'll have to wait to be 100% sure. Overall, this shouldn't be a big impact to our build, that's what I think for right now. Now the next point that I'm gonna make is there's a new Resolute Technique keystone, which doubles your accuracy. Now obviously before we had that unique shield, which used to do the same thing, but with this, which is kind of a little bit out of the way, but not too far, it's here. So I also sometimes pick those AoE nodes anyway near the warrior, so getting here might not be the biggest deal. And then if you can use, instead of that accuracy doubling shield, if you can use some like more defense stuff, I think that's gonna be really great for the build overall. You can even also go for buckler, get way more evasion, and maybe even build into deflect. We'll see how it works out over time, but definitely a good buff. And to top it all off, players now gain plus 6 accuracy per level instead of 3, so that's a good chunk. Like on level 90, you're gonna have double the accuracy from levels, which is decent. And then you also have more scaling from the dexterity itself. So the reason why this is important is if you remember before, we did use Falcon Dive. For each 250 accuracy we have, we get 1% attack speed. So we can get some really high amounts and make our character move really, really quick. So that's a really big plus. And then finally, the last change that we have, you can no longer socket multiple copies of the same skill gem into your main skill sockets. Which means people before who were using 2 whirling slashes, that won't be doable. But if you guys remember, there was also a way to do it with the whirling lance. Because this also makes a whirlwind that you can then soak up with a whirling slash. So you should still be able to use stuff like Expanse, Reach, Magnified Effect, Font of Mana and Font of Rage, and then suck it up into the whirlwind. So overall, this is what the gem setup I'm planning to run, and for support gems I'm just gonna, like I said, wait and see how the new gems are looking and then make a final version. Overall, if you guys think that I missed anything in the patch notes, let me know, but as I've said, everything that I've seen, nothing actually indicates that this won't work. And if it does, all these like flat damage buffs and more damage from the stages should make it decently better. So yeah, that's it for the Burning Slash. Let's go to the Weapon Infusion next, or right now I think it's called the Elemental something. Yeah, we'll see right now. When it comes to my second build, they did rename it from Infuse Weapon to Elemental Surge. The reason why they did this is to avoid all of the naming conflicts between this and Infusion stuff on Sorceress. I guess that's whatever. And there are a couple of changes that we need to go over. So the first change is, they did nerf the Amazon Crit Ascendancy node. It went from 25% down to 15%, but honestly for our build that's really not that important, because I was reaching 100% crit chance just by having stuff on the tree and the support gems, meaning minimal investment, and as you can see I was getting 8.75% base crit from the Ascendancy. If you want to calculate the new one, we can just calculate how much 1% would give us times 15, which means we would get 5.25% base crit. And if you want to simulate that in the POB to see what the difference is, I can just go ahead and remove the Ascendancy, and also I can remove the accuracy node, whatever, and then I can go on my weapon and just add that 5.25 that I was saying now. So if you just do that, you can see that I go down to 91.58% crit, so all that I need is just additional 30% increased critical hit chance, and I'm back to 100. So it's really not that big of a deal. You can do that via jewels, or you can just, you know, remove some critical damage bonus and get critical hit chance instead. Either way, it's not really a big deal for us, so that's good. And the second one is actually a buff. Instead of getting 2 surges, which we had before, now we're gonna have 3. So that's gonna make a decent difference in charge generation, which is gonna then enable us to drop the unique amulet that we were using so far, and then use a rare amulet with Spirit Energy Shield, which is gonna make us a lot tankier and easier to get all of the Spirit Gem requirements. So that's a really good upgrade overall, so I'm happy with that. The sad part is, even though the first version of the build didn't use Herald of Thunder and Custom Freeze with Voltaic Mark, the latest one that I uploaded did. Sadly, that is gone. We are no longer going to be able to chain, but we can just go back to Pulse Circle and Ring and run it with the Herald of Ice. Now this is really decent, and it also opens up the 3 nodes that we didn't use before, because our damage is mainly cold. So before it didn't make sense to use this with Herald of Thunder, but now because we're back to Herald of Ice, those 3 notables are really decent, so that's I guess the upside of that. But the clear is definitely going to be a tiny bit worse. Overall, boss damage is going to be a lot better, and here's why. Galvanic Shards, ammunition no longer has 50% less reload speed, but it only has 1 bolt. One thing that I'm not quite sure, I mean, since they didn't mention it, it probably should be still the same. The Galvanic Shard used to have 200% attack speed multiplier. I'm not sure if that's gone or not. If not, we are definitely still using Galvanic Shards. And if it is gone, we are probably going to Incendiary Shot, and I'll explain why later once we get into the next portion. But let's just stick with it for now. So the whole idea is, because Galvanic Shards obviously has 1 bolt now, they gave it more fragments, and you can also get 2 more from quality, hitting up 10 total. So both Galvanic and Incendiary can do 10, but if we have 200% attack speed on Galvanic, it's obviously gonna be better. And the whole idea is now, because you have only 1 bolt, you wanna always have that one bolt. So how do we do this? Well, there's a spirit gem called Shard Scavenger, and this one is really easily achievable to get the enough duration and the skill gem level to have it permanently up. So how do we do this? The buff duration is 2 seconds, and on level 25 you can gain it every 5.6 seconds. So all that we need to do is get the duration over 5.6 seconds, and it's always gonna be up as long as we consume any of the freeze, shock, ignite or fully broken armor. So the way that we do this, we can socket any spell either in the we can use it ourselves personally, or we can use some custom stuff, whether it be elemental invocation, the new, what's it called, the cast ailments thing. We can probably see what works the best, and we can also maybe use the new cannon, like what's it called, new gems that you can put the grenades in, and maybe break armor with poison, and then just use the exploit weakness. I'll have to figure out what's the best overall solution to kind of automate it, but if you can't fully automate it, then it doesn't matter too much. But overall, the whole idea is now the damage is going to be way higher, because instead of firing 6 infusions per one shot, which we did before, we're going to be firing 10. And because of the Shard Scavenger, we are never going to have to reload. Only thing that we have to do is refresh it every 5.6 seconds. And it's always gonna be up, never consuming charges. And the way that we achieve this is we have 2% base, like I said. We have times 1.4 from the persistent support gem. Then you have times 1.1 because of the prolonged assault notable on the skill tree. This says buffs on you expire 10% slower. This is a more multiplier because this happens after all the other duration increases and just, extends your buff duration. So it is a multiplier. And then finally, this 87 is just addition of all skill effect duration I have combined. So this small cluster here gives us 32%. We get 3 Sapphire or any jewels for 30% extra, that's 62%. And then you can get one of the anointments, which there are plenty of. There's like at least 2 or 3 like 25% skill effect duration anointments. You just get any one of those and you're looking at 87. And just with this, you are going over the cap that we were talking about before. So you can permanently shoot out this on bosses. And for mapping, you don't even need this. If they remove the 50% less reload speed, the gameplay was basically you walk, hit, you walk, hit. You don't really spam it anyway in maps, and you one-shot everything, especially now with 10 fragments. So I think this build can potentially be even more broken. And the best part to put this all on top is that new Plasma Blast can actually give you 50% more shock magnitude. So if you do like a weapon switch or stuff like that with this, you can really easily reach 100% shock. Just by going all of those nodes on the tree on your weapon switch and then using the Plasma Blast on top, you can potentially see some huge damage. So overall, I don't know. The only reason why I said I could use Incendiary Shot is because right now I wanted to use Solar Orb for Ignite, but because of the new flammability, kind of the way the ignites work, you can't just ignite targets. You need to reach 100%, and I don't think that's going to be too easy on bosses. So I think I'm probably going to be consuming shocks instead if I stay on the Galvanic Shards, and if not, then I'm going to be using Incendiary Shot to consume ignites. Because basically Incendiary Shot is going to be a lot better with Plasma Blast, because then you don't have to consume that shock that you used before. You can just proc Ignite, consume Ignite with Elemental Discharge, and then use Plasma Blast to like get huge damage increase. Let's just wait till we see how exactly this works in-game, but the damage should be way higher than it was before. That's all I have to say for right now. If you guys have any questions, or if I missed any patch notes, it's quite possible I maybe missed something that could break one of those two builds. But so far they didn't mention about the fix for the weapon infusion. It still is going to consume only 2 maximum and proc as many fragments as you should. And for the previous build, there is no mention that the Whirlwind cannot soak the Burning Ground from the Incinerate. So if I missed any of those guys, please let me know so I can put it in the pinned comment. But outside of that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.